Hello everyone, Neve here, and this is episode 3. I don't know what you call YouTube series videos, episodes. So episode or episode 3 or iteration 3, I don't know, whatever. So anyway, this is episode 3 of me kind of doing a little bit of a deep dive sort of the Mildred Payne Secret Pocket Oracle. So the first video I did just a quick keywords, trying to decide what each of the cards mean to me. And then the second video I messed around with houses a little bit and combining the cards. So in this one, I think I'm going to try to do a little bit of figuring out the polarities or positive negatives of each of the cards. I'm more thinking of it like with Lenormand, how you have positive cards, negative cards, and neutral cards, and then some people also do neutral positive and neutral negative. That's more what I'm talking about with this, that going through each of the cards and figuring out if it's a positive, a negative, or a neutral, and kind of going from there. And this is mostly for yes no spreads, or something where you need a bit more of a clear answer versus something that's a bit ambiguous, because any of these cards could be positive and negative depending on what's around them. But if we're just talking about straight up a quick yes no answer, which I would normally do for that, I would probably lay out a 3 card, and whatever was the majority would be my answer, and then you could actually read the 3 card spread from there. So I went through and I kind of created this list, and I basically picked the cards that were very clear positives, and I think I counted and there were 27 on here, though I put Antidote in neutral for some reason, but that feels like that would definitely be a positive card. So even this list that I made, I would want to adjust a little bit, because I do have some on here that are neutral that I feel like should be in the negative category. So anyway, if I add in the one that's right here, I think it's 27. Yeah, I just double checked and it is 27. Yeah, so that's probably, yeah, there we go. And then the negatives, I think I only counted 22. Yes, 22. And then if I added these 2 in, it would be 24. So it's basically 27 and 24 if I move the ones that I initially had in the neutral category to what I now believe should be the positive or negative. So that leaves the rest. So there are 88 cards. 27 are in the positive. 24 are in the negative. So that's what, 51? So yeah, 27 plus 20. 24. That's what I said, 24? 27 plus 24. So that should be 51, right? All right, off the top of my head. So what that leaves is, because we had 88 minus 51, that's 37. So 37 are in the neutral category. So yeah, I mean, and then if I really wanted, I could narrow it down from there to make it evener to make it even, but I think we'll deal with this for right now, because I'm not even sure that I'll stick with the positive, negative, neutral categories for this deck, but yeah. Okay, so let me go through the cards that I think just immediately come out to me as positives. So we have Sage, Owl, Scarab, mostly because they can represent good luck. Now Scarab could represent something that's negative in a spread, because it could represent like an infestation. But the history of Scarab, the mythology around Scarab, to me is generally positive. So I put this in the positive as a sort of good luck sort of omen. So there we go. We have Cat. I have in positive. Cat could be neutral, but I don't know. Key definitely positive. Diamond positive. Antidote, positive. I have no idea why I initially had it listed as neutral, because antidote to me, of course, is positive. Lighthouse, positive. Acorn, positive. Wish, of course, positive. Pentacle, I put in positive instead of neutral. Yeah. And then we have fish is positive. Flower, positive. Heart, positive. Candle, I put in positive because it's more of an illumination. Yeah, there's very few things that I would initially associate with candle for being a negative. I mean, again, any of these cards could be positives or negatives. We're just talking about making this as black and white as possible for some quick answer spreads. So dove, of course, is positive. Ribbon, positive. Star, positive. Shield, I put in positive because it's kind of got that protector vibe. Again, you could still see a negative in that. Herb is in positive. Sun, of course, is positive. Whoops. I put cauldron as positive. Yes, I'm pretty happy with that. Shell for positive. Harp, positive. And coin, positive. Now, I had two others here that I initially listed as positive that I'm not sure if I might put in the negative category. Or not negative category, but neutral at least. This one, you could give me an argument for this one being negative. This one, I don't know. I mean, I do have cauldron in here, and we have chalice. So I don't know. Is it positive, or is it neutral, or is it like a neutral positive? So I'm not sure about that one. So I'm gonna hold these out. Again, I feel like there could be an argument for the dragon being negative. So we're going to hold those out. All right, so the neutral category. Actually, let's do the negatives first. The negative category. So we have snake, factory, blood, dagger, iceberg, which is pretty similar to mountain in Lenormand. And I'm not sure that I mentioned that in my first video going through this, but iceberg could be a substitute for mountain if we're making some of these cards attached to Lenormand. Saturn is negative. Yeah, so it's the Saturn card kind of has a bit of an emperor vibe. In the tarot. Not that the emperor is necessarily a negative thing, but this in this situation, Saturn is something that does skew negative. So at least in my opinion here. So negative for Saturn. Spider, negative. Ankh, because I connect it to the cross card. I think I initially had this one in the neutral category because it could just represent spirituality in general, but so can the cross card in Lenormand, which is not positive or negative. But because I am connecting this with the cross card in Lenormand, and that is a negative because it in and of itself tends to represent burdens or obligations. And that is why I have put the Ankh as a negative. Devil, negative. Volcano, storm, wall, because it's a blockage. Shovel is in negative. Of course, that could be neutral. But yeah. To me, if we're just separating out instinct, yes or no, I'm going to put shovel in no or negative. Comet, pitchfork, hag, poppet, because that can, of course, it can be pretty neutral in this if it's representing dolls or magic in general, but poppet is often used for control, so that's why I put poppet in the negative category. We also have rope for negative, stump, Scourge, which is different than Broom in this deck. In Lenormand, we have Whip / Broom, and it's usually decks pick which one they want to use, and it's the same. It's the same card, basically. But I tend to have a different sort of understanding of the Whip versus Broom card, depending on what it's called. If it's Broom, I tend to have not a positive view on it, but a more neutral view on it, where it tends to represent repeated actions, chores, things that have to get done, and yeah, but things that are repeated. It's not a one-time thing. It's a thing that happens over and over again, which can skew negative. But I tend to read a Broom card in a deck a little bit differently than the Whip card. The Whip card is much more clearly negative, and that's how I see the Scourge here is more negative. But of course, it doesn't necessarily represent, doesn't necessarily have to mean a negative thing in a reading. So there we go. All right, Poison, of course, is negative. Rat, negative. Axe, negative. And Skull, which I initially had in neutral, but I feel like makes more sense in the negative category. All right, so, and also, I'm not sure if you can hear, but it is raining outside, and so raindrops are hitting my roof here. I hope you don't mind. I just wanted to film this, even though lighting isn't super great right now because it's overcast and rainy, and you can hear rain on my roof right now, but hope you don't mind. All right, so that leaves the neutral category. Now, I didn't have any questionable cards in here because I have been pulling out questionable cards that were in each of the categories initially. I didn't have any questionable cards in the negatives category. I'm pretty happy with everything that I've put in the negative. Neutral. We have Tree. Now in Lenormand, this is kind of a neutral negative because Tree can represent health problems. It can represent slow growth or kind of being stuck in one place. And so some people do actually put the Tree card in the negative category in Lenormand. To me, it's more of a neutral negative. So I have it in the neutral category because it kind of has a wide range of associations. All right, so Fire, I put in neutral. It could be negative depending, but I put it in neutral. Water, also neutral. Stick is neutral, but you could make an argument for it to being negative, though. So I have it in neutral, but here we go. Crow is in neutral. Now, the book has Crow as kind of representing a negative thing, like negative omens, bad omens. I really don't see the crow that way. I see the crow, yes, it represents omens, but it's a very neutral card to me. And I also associate it with On Morrigan. And On Morrigan, I would not consider her a positive or a negative entity. She is what she is, you know, and she's a messenger. A messenger. She can give messages, and they can be negative, but they can also be very positive. So in general, I've put Crow as a neutral card, and it feels like a true neutral. So then we have Boy is a true neutral, of course. B, I use to represent the goddess Bridget, which I think, did I initially have this as a positive card? No, I had this as a neutral card, and I think for a lot of the same reasons that I have Crow as a neutral card. And B, could definitely represent a very positive thing, but you also get stung by a bee. So there's a sting to the bees here. So to me, it's a neutral, maybe skewing positive, but I'm not sure. Feather is neutral. Broom. Now, Broom I put as neutral instead of Scourge as, the Scourge I put as negative. Broom I put as neutral. And I'm still pretty happy with that. I'm still pretty happy with Broom being neutral. Book is neutral. In Lenormand, sometimes it represents something negative, or it can be a neutral negative, in the sense that book can also represent secrets. So if I'm gonna separate this out even further on neutral positive and neutral negative, I would put book as neutral negative, but we're gonna keep it in neutral. Door is neutral. Ear is neutral. Bell is neutral. Could be positive. Now, here's the thing. I think I have trumpet here in my not sure category, because I pulled out several from the neutral category. I could have this as a positive and this as a negative. Perhaps. Because both represent news or announcements or things being drawn attention to. This is more subtle or just kind of, twinkly. Whereas this is loud and obnoxious. A trumpet is loud and obnoxious. So I'm wondering if I should do this. And I think I might. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do bell as more of a positive announcement or subtle announcement, whereas trumpet is more of a negative or at least obnoxious. So yeah, I'm going to grab this pile here. All right, so then we have foot. I put in neutral. Eyes in neutral. So basically the body parts I've kind of kept as neutral. Moon I put as neutral. Yes, and could it be positive? Perhaps, but I also have sun and star both in the positive. And if we're gonna say one or the other, I would actually, moon would skew negative to me. And that is because it is so, kind of mysterious. And so the moon in Lenormand, to me represents your reputation. And so I think of the moon, in both tarot and Lenormand as a mirror. And I know we have a mirror card in here, but it's a mirror in both decks. In tarot, in Lenormand, the moon is the reflection that is coming back at you. It's what you see. It's what other people are seeing. It's what's being reflected out to the world. So that's why the moon to me represents reputation. Whereas in tarot, instead of the front part of the mirror, in tarot, it's kind of what's behind the mirror. It's not what you're seeing. It's something that's hidden. And that's the difference between the moon in Lenormand versus the moon in tarot. So I guess it could be neutral. Yeah, and a lot of people would see the moon as a more positive thing. So I don't know. It's a neutral card. It's one of those ones that you could really make an argument for both. A house is neutral. It's literally just a house. Now it could skew positive, because this basically just represents any building. It skews positive because it can be like your safe space. So it's kind of a neutral positive. But I have it in the neutral category. We have hat, which is neutral. Wheel is neutral. Time is neutral. I feel like some of these are true neutrals, and time would be a true neutral. Same with girl. Girl and boy are true neutrals. Boot I have as neutral. I could make an argument for it skewing this way, but neutral. Tooth is neutral. Mirror is neutral. This is the mirror, I say the moon is also a mirror, but this is a true neutral mirror. Orbiculum, or the crystal ball, basically, is also a neutral because it's just a message. So that message could be positive, it could be negative. It's just a message. Bone I have as neutral. Some people might move that to negative. I have it as neutral. Hand is neutral. Again, like I said, the body parts tend to be neutral. And then I have ladder as neutral. I could Yeah, neutral, because you can make an argument for it being positive in that you're moving up in the world, going up the ladder, but you could also skew it negative as that being that never-ending ladder or the struggle to keep moving up. So yeah, neutral. All right, so I do have some cards that I had in the neutral category that I have questions for. Now I have already moved some out. Here we go. So pipe. Pipe is one that I feel like could be a neutral positive. And it could also represent like elderly people. It's kind of like it's a question. You know? Moth is also one that I wasn't sure might go in this category. Umbrella, I also feel like could skew negative. Arrow is one that could skew negative, but it's pretty neutral. Fetus is perhaps a neutral positive. Octopus was one that I really considered moving totally to the positive, but I'm not sure. Same for mushroom and same for frog, but I do have I have far more positives than I do negatives. So let me pull out these again and put that here and this here. Well, I'm not sure. All right. Okay, I just narrowed this down even more, and I've got the positives are 25 cards, the negatives are 25 cards, the neutrals, the true neutrals are 24 cards, and we have 7 neutral positive and 7 neutral negative. So I'm actually really happy now with what's going on here. So I think what I'm going to do, instead of, because I did just go through every single one of these cards, I'm going to put on screen all of the cards that I have designated as positive. So I will put that up on the screen right now. And now all of the cards I've designated as negative. So I will put that up on the screen right now. All of the cards that I designated as true neutrals, I will put up on the screen right now. Now, also, I will say that I moved the pentacle from the positive to neutral, and that's what made my final decision on the chalice as well. So I have both of these in as true neutrals, because the pentacle could represent very positive things. Same with the chalice, but they also just represent ritual tools. So it's very neutral, I think. I don't think it has a polarity necessarily. The pentacle doesn't necessarily have a polarity, and neither does the chalice. So I have moved them to true neutral. All right, so true neutral up on the screen. And I will also put on screen the neutral positives and the neutral negatives. All right, so those I have up on the screen as well. All right, so I'm pretty happy with that. I think that has now made sense, and I can create something that reflects that. Now, from there, how do you read that when we have 24 neutral cards in here? So I've also marked my thing to let me know which ones I've moved around. So I am just going to do a couple sample spreads, a couple sample things like yes/no questions, basically, and looking at whether we're getting a clear positive, a clear negative, or something that's very ambiguous. And from there, so if a card is neutral positive or neutral negative, it counts as positive or negative, but it has the element, the element of ambiguity to it. So it's not a hard positive or a hard negative. I hope that makes sense, but I'm going to go through and shuffle this a few times and really get this mixed around. Okay, so I've shuffled this a few times, and I'm going to think of 3 example questions that are basically yes/no questions. And in regards to yes/no questions, I typically avoid them as much as possible because they're so black and white. And we will get sort of black and white responses from this, but we still have a spread we can read from there. So typically, I try to word my questions that are a bit more open-ended so that I can let the cards talk and let me know context and stuff on the situation. But sometimes you just want to know an answer. So the first one I have, the first question I have is basically having to do with a future question. So this is essentially predicting the future, which is changeable, and it's based off, when I do future questions, like, will this happen in the future or in this amount of time? It's not set in stone, and sure, that could, you could say that that's a cop out on, like, hey, this didn't happen, the cards were wrong. But, I see future readings as having to do with if the choices we make right now continue to go as they're going, this is the likely outcome. That's how I read a future reading. And and getting the answer to that right now is going to affect our choices going forward. But things can change. Anyway, this is basically a snapshot. So let's say the question is, will I get a promotion in the next 3 months? All right. So, and I don't have a job, so this is not pertaining to me. Let me make a different. Will William get a promotion in the next 3 months? We'll just word it like that. And it could be any William here. And I just flipped over a card. Let's see. Will William get a promotion in the next 3 months? All right. And I'm going to split right here. All right, so I would lay down a 3 card or a 5 card. You kind of want to keep it at odd numbers, so I wouldn't lay down like a 6 card mini box there. I could lay down a 9 card box. That could work, but I think with this type of question, or with these where we're just looking for a yes no for the most part, keep it simple. Keep it at a 3 card or a 5 card. Yeah, you could do 7, but 3 card or 5 card. So let's lay down just the 3 card. Will William get a promotion in the next 3 months? Yes, yes, no. And so I would say that the answer is yes. And we could leave it at that. We have 2 yeses and a no. So it's very likely that William will get a promotion in the next 3 months. We do have an obstacle here at the end, so there could be something that pops up at the end that could halt his chances. But we need to be aware of that. It's shining a light. It's shining a light on the situation. Now it's shining a light that way instead of this way. So it's shining a light on past performances. Past performances are showing that you have what it needs to overcome this, because this is an antidote. You have what you need to overcome this, but this is also the skull. It could just be a mental block. So there could be an obstacle right here at the end that could potentially block William's chances of getting a promotion, but he has the antidote to get over that. So it's very likely. And so the answer here would be a yes. So hopefully that made sense. I'm going to keep these. Well, no, I'll put them back in. All right. So let's say another question, and maybe we could lay out a 5 card for this one. We're going to go, I'm so terrible at overhand shuffling. I really prefer riffle shuffling, but this is such a large deck. Well, small in size, but large in number, that you kind of have to do overhand shuffling. I'm just not very good at overhand shuffling. I prefer riffle. Anyway, so let's do another one. So let's do something having to do with relationships. Now, you could say, do a question like, does Susan like me? Or, I always pick Susan as a sample name. Does this person or that person like me? You know, something like that. You could do that. You know, some people have a problem with that. You know, like, oh, you're getting into the minds of others. I have a pretty neutral take on that. I kind of ask questions like that all the time. You know, I don't really have a problem with that. You know, I don't see it as invading. You know, yeah, but that's a personal thing. That's personal ethics. We can get into that or whatever, but that's beyond the scope of this video. But, you know, maybe we can reword that. It's still a yes or no question, but it's more of is starting a relationship with X person in my best interest? And this could be a romantic relationship. It could be a friendship. It could be a business relationship. Is starting a relationship with X person in my best interest? So this is just going to be a random one here. All right. So is starting a relationship, and let's narrow it down. Let's say it's a romantic relationship. Is starting a romantic relationship with X in my best interest? All right, and I'm gonna split right here. Okay, so I'm gonna do a 5 card. So I'm gonna start over here and go like this. Some people, when they do a 5 card, they will place in the middle and then place the 2 cards on either side. I personally, just the way I like to lay out cards, I like to start from the beginning and go that way. So I'm gonna lay them down face down first, and then I will pick them up from the middle. So fetus, now I had this as a neutral positive. So right now it's a check in the positive. And then we will start over here and over here. All right, so, ending with a bad card is not a good sign. So let's see, I'm trying to remember what I had for arrow. Arrow, I had moved to a neutral negative. So we have neutral positive in the center, and it's a fetus. So, all right, let me see. So positive. Candle was neutral positive. This is neutral negative, and this is a clear negative. So we have these 4 cards are all neutrals. 1 is a neutral negative, and 3 are neutral positives. So this is a pretty ambiguous question here. And then it ends with a pitchfork. So that is not a good sign. I would say that the cards are saying, is it in your best interest? Well, there's a lot of good things that are going to come from this relationship. You're going to learn many different aspects of yourself. It's starting off as something that's very new and kind of exciting. There's a lot of potential here. The fetus is a potential. And, you know, with Candle and Octopus, and they're also mirroring each other, there are going to be things that you're going to learn about yourself. There are going to be things that you're going to gain from this relationship. So that is a net positive there. And that's why they're neutral positive. But we have a neutral negative right here where it's kind of starting out. We're gonna have memories of some things that we've been kind of shot in the back for, betrayals in the past, things that have kind of hit us, and it's gonna end with some pitchfork here. So, we've got a situation here where it's like, yeah, the answer is yes, but, and it might not end in the most positive way here. Or, I mean, if it's a relationship that continues, it could have a sort of toxic nature to it. The positives are that there are going to be things that are uncovered for you that are going to be a learning experience. So, all right. So, I mean, that was a complicated answer. to that question. All right. And I think I'm going to do one more question. And this one's going to be, I think we're going to go a bit more spiritual with this one and say, like, it could be an advice thing. Like, should I form a relationship with this deity? and that's a sort of asking the cards for straight up advice, you know, and it is a yes no question, and we are going to get, I think I'm just going to stick with a 3 card again. We're going to get a yes no answer to this. But you know, I think maybe we should change it to, maybe, you know, I know what we'll do. We'll do, is X deity or entity calling out to me? Because that's a yes or no. And we can get a little bit of the context of the cards themselves. I just messed that up. There we go. So it's a yes no. Is this deity calling out to me? Or is this entity calling out to me? It's a yes no. And we get a little bit of context of it, but there we go. All right, so is X deity or X entity calling out to me? Is X entity calling out to me? All right, we'll split right here and see what we get. Just 3 cards. 1, 2, 3. Oh, gosh. Okay. We got 2 cards that represent time, and both these are true neutrals, and we do have a positive. So it's something that's really developing over time. Is this entity calling out to you right now? No, but like perhaps there have been something where you're kind of on the radar a little bit. So there have been, like, you know, ears perked up, perhaps, even though we don't have the ears card here, but we have something perked up a little bit. And it's something that it's going to take time. So they're not calling out to you now, but they're for the most part pretty neutral on you, or neutral positive on you here. So it's very neutral, and it's something that could develop over time. So the answer is perhaps no, but in that it's neutral. You know, it's neutral positive here. You know, we've got 2 true neutrals and ending with a positive. And these are pretty, as far as a spiritual reading goes, I mean, perhaps it's saying maybe as the wheel turns, maybe the next Sabbath, maybe you could do an herb offering that could be something that gets their attention a bit more. So there we go. So that is another way you can do a neutral or a neutral or negative or positive, a black and white kind of reading, which turns out to not really be all that black and white. But there we go. All right. So hopefully this was helpful. I think for the next video, I might try combining it with some other decks, and we might end this on episode 5. We might do a close, because I feel like at this point we've really gotten our idea on how to work with the Mildred Payne Secret Pocket Oracle. The next episode I'll do some combinations with some other decks, and I'm not sure what my last video will be, but I kind of want to round it off on 5 videos. All right, thank you so much for watching, everyone, and I will see you next time. Bye!